Okay, and we are live once again. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2020, and welcome back to our Facebook page. My name is Michael Quedal, Digital Marketing Specialist for the New Jersey School Boards Association. And as you can see, we are once again coming at you live through the power of Cisco WebEx, trying our best to flatten the curve and practice social distancing. NGSBA has been hosting Facebook Live events to address questions from boards, school administrators, and educators throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. If you want a replay of any of our previous broadcasts, click the videos tab on the left-hand side of the Facebook page. That has all the laundry list of the videos we've done, the live broadcasts, and all that other content. And make sure you click that like button so you can be notified when we do go live in the future. Next week's Facebook Live events include the following Wednesday, May 20th. I cannot believe it's mid-May, May 20th on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We'll welcome John Henry back to the program in his weekly Wednesday morning spot with representatives from the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. We're going to be learning a little bit about what can be done virtually to reduce energy costs for school facilities. And as more people are at home, utility bills are rising, and we're going to be talking about how to handle that increased demand. And we're going to be discussing also what can be done at home with student involvement. So that's going to be a really special program on Wednesday. So mark your calendar. Thursday, May 21st, we're going to welcome back Terry Lewis, one of our amazing field service representatives, to the program. And she's going to be giving an update from the field, answering some hot button issues and questions that our field service department is hearing from our membership. And then next Friday, Alisha DeLorenzo will be back in her weekly Friday 1 p.m. spot. So definitely mark your calendars next Friday, 1 p.m. Alisha DeLorenzo. We are encouraging participation today from you, the viewer. Alicia and I will be monitoring the comment section during and after the broadcast. So if you have a question or comment or just want to say hi or nice job, drop it in the comment section below, and I'm sure Alicia will be able to see that. So whether you're a school board member, administrator, teacher, or even a parent, we are here to serve you and help you work through this difficult time. And as always, the most important thing, I hope everyone is doing okay and they are healthy and their families are okay as well. So without further ado, I proudly welcome back to the program in her weekly 1 p.m. Friday spot, Alisha DeLorenzo. Good afternoon, Alisha.
Hi, Michael. I can't believe it's been as long as it's been when you brought noticed our timeline here.
I know it's crazy, mid-May, but it's 86 degrees out, so I can't complain.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. So, welcome back, folks. If this is your first time here, I want to invite you to just post up in the comments who you are and where you're coming to us from. That goes for everybody, really. Let's find out who's in the room and see where you're coming from to join us. We appreciate you joining us week after week. And just a little bit about what goes on here. If you are new, if this is your first time, we have a small discussion generally about some things that help us make sense of our world currently, the way we're experiencing it. And then we practice some techniques that promote our healing, promote our well-being, our overall wellness, and can have really positive effects on our immune system, which is one of the things that will be the benefit of what we practice today. And I'll share that in a moment. So please just post up in your comments where you're from, who you are, and maybe what you're feeling today. If that moves you to do so, you can. And I want us to think back to last week about the breaths that we took together. And I talked about the 5 breaths per minute and how that is the most calming sequence of breathing. Most of us breathe a lot faster. So let's just kick off with getting grounded in our breath and in our breathing. So go ahead and get comfortable in the seat that you're in, and then begin to ground down wherever you're sitting, but then start to rise out of your seat by lifting up your chest and kind of lifting through your bones as you ground down at the same time. Notice the duality of those two feelings, being grounded, but having the ability to rise. It's really important to get grounded, especially now when we could feel all over the place. So as you settle in, I want you just to start to bring attention to your breath and just start to notice it. Notice any sensations about your breath that you can feel, maybe the rising and falling of your chest, maybe the ebb and flow, or even the sound of your breathing. Start to notice and become attuned to your breath. And now let's just start to take 5 counts in and 5 counts out. And you could follow along with me, or you can just think about it in your own mind. So you're going to take your first deep breath in for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale at the same pace. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in, fill up, and then release. Let it go. Begin your next breath. Inhale. And then exhale. Allow that breath to move out your nose, out of your mouth. On our fourth breath, inhale for a count of 5. And then exhale, same pace. Our last deep breath, inhale. And exhale. All right. So I hope that you are beginning to really connect with your breath and feel its power and use it throughout your week, not just here when we're together. It's a really incredible tool. And today we'll add to our tools in our toolbox. But I want to start to talk about something that we've talked about presence and becoming present and getting present to certain things. One thing that we're very present to are all of the changes that we're experiencing. These changes came very quickly, and um, they've continued for a really long time. We're flooded with changes from day to day, changes in our routines, changes in the news, changes in the statistics, changes in the restrictions. Sometimes we have more restrictions. Now we're learning that the beaches will be open for Memorial Day, so change in some relief in those restrictions. We're even faced with changes in our health. And that's not just now, right? We experience changes every day, all throughout life, and oftentimes without notice. So when we think about change, change is external. It's something that happens and we receive it. It's outside of us, right? This change and the many changes we're experiencing are oftentimes out of our control. We see everything that's happening right now as far as the changes that are happening around us are outside of our control. Many of us may not even agree with some of the changes. If you've talked to several different people, you might have received several different opinions about what people think about this stay-at-home order, say, or the way we're approaching school. Everyone has an opinion, and we may not like the changes, we may not want the changes, but the thing about changes is that it's consistent. You know, change is consistent. It happens throughout life, all throughout life. Oftentimes, a lot of our suffering is in not wanting change and resisting change, and really feeling suffering around the impermanence of the way things have always been, right? If we expect that things will always be this way and then one day they change, we have a lot of suffering as human beings around thinking that it was going to stay the same or expecting that it wouldn't change. So this can cause, obviously, a lot of the things that we're feeling, a lot of dis-ease, a lot of discomfort, maybe some anger, confusion, frustration. So I want you to take a moment and just reflect on what are your personal reactions to change? Change is happening to you. Do you typically respond in a way that is anxious? Is your typical response to change feeling negative or daunting feelings, regardless of what the change is? Or do you have experiences when changes happen where you've felt excited or even hopeful? So, thinking about your personal responses to change. What are they? Let's just get in touch with them. You could post them up. You can think about them. You can say them out loud, but just take a moment to reflect on how you personally deal with change. And if you're posting, I'll give you a moment. There is a delay. Lots of new folks in the room today, so that's really exciting. That's a change for you to join us, so welcome. Okay, so in thinking about change, we have a good picture of what it is. But now I want you to start to consider something that we pay less attention to, and that is transition. So change and transition are different. Transition, in contrast to change, transition is something that we may have control over, the way we transition. Transition is what happens to us in the event of change. When change happens, it's how we react and respond to it. Transition is more psychological. It's how we perceive the change and how we move through it. Think of transition as the space between change. There's this spaciousness of where change happens and then the time that it takes. And that in between time is the transition. So think about maybe when you have moved. The move happened, and that happened immediately, and it happened right away. But the transition from moving from one place to the next may take a week. You may not open boxes for months. You may not unpack certain things for years. The transition actually takes some time. So if we think about change, we can think of that as, fast. And then if we think about transition, think of this as slow cook. Transition is a simmer. It happens over time. It's how we experience change. It's internal. It's also personal. So depending on certain things, the way that I experience transition is different than the way that you experience transition. And some of those factors that come into play are the extent that this change has taken you by surprise. Now, with what we're experiencing right now, it probably has taken most of us by surprise. And so that has had an impact on us. Think about other things in your life. You didn't see a divorce coming, and that change took you by surprise. Your transition through that will be different than somebody who saw it coming and wanted it for a really long time. So think about the other changes that happen in your life, and then how your transitions have looked, how it has felt to move through those transitions. Some other things and some other factors is the level of uncertainty that the change brings. Again, currently, this level of uncertainty is high. So many of us will face this change and transition with a certain amount of anxiety and stress. And that's perfectly normal. What you're feeling, as I've said, every week is okay. All of your feelings are okay. The other thing that plays a part in how we transition is where we are at in life. So if change happens and you are really grounded and you have a strong support and a great foundation, then your transition may be smoother or there might be some more ease. If a big change happens, like the changes we're experiencing now, and you've just lost your job, and maybe you've experienced other losses, well, then this transition may be compounded and it may be more challenging. Another component is the amount of supports that we have around us, how supported we are, and just our ability to talk about the transition and what it's been like and what it feels like. I know every time I head outside and I speak to my neighbors, we kind of chat about what it feels like today, what today is like and where we're at with it. The way our worldview existed beforehand, before the change, impacts our transition. So if my worldview, if the way I see the world is through optimism and hope and possibility, then I may face other transitions with that same sense of my personality or my temperament. But if I see the world as being a dangerous place, a place that's unsafe, um, a world that we can't people can't be trusted, then I may see this or other changes in my transition maybe challenging and continue with that worldview, align with that worldview. So those are a couple things that impact the way that we transition. um, William Bridges gives us a framework, and that framework is to help us manage this shift. And in William Bridges' framework, there's 3 stages that are connected to change. And the first one is the ending stage, which is where a lot of people are right now. The things that are ending, like for our students, uh, ending maybe milestones. It's a year of graduation, or maybe their athletic careers. And so these milestone markers, the loss of them, they're really feeling the sense of loss or grief, and maybe struggling with how to accept that change right now. So that ending stage is filled with a lot of loss, a lot of letting go. And then really the closure part of it um, is something that people really need. And sometimes right now we don't have that opportunity. We're forced to let go of something that we don't want to. We're forced to let go of the way things used to be. Thinking about our educators right now, many of them are going into their schools and closing out their classrooms. And they're saying goodbye to a school year that was in some ways cut short. And I'm going to talk about how, as school leaders, you can address and help people manage the transition, because the way that you manage the transition is really going to impact the way in which you succeed beyond the transition. So stay tuned for that part of the conversation that's coming up next. So that's the first stage, is the ending stage. The second stage in William Bridges' framework is the neutral zone. And in the neutral zone, there's a lot of, it's marked with a lot of chaos and confusion. It's marked with a lot of feelings of maybe being stuck. It also can be marked with some feelings of renewal as well. But there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of energy is spent on just trying to cope. So thinking about yourself in these different stages, maybe you've spent a lot of energy trying to just cope with the transition of being a parent, working at home, um, trying to educate your own children. There's also this sense of it's so uncomfortable that we are itching to move out of it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Really just wanting to move on to what's next. And we generally like to hop from the ending to the new beginning, which is the third stage. But really, I would urge you to make the most of the neutral zone, the time where you're sorting out through the chaos, and you're sorting out through this kind of new experience, and thinking about maybe this bridge, right? This bridge between the ending stage and what's next. And considering that there's a lot of creativity that happens in the neutral zone. So how many of you have been like building things, or maybe you took up painting and doing something artistic? Yeah, even though we are trying to move through this phase because it's uncomfortable, it's really primed for creativity and new possibilities. So spend some time here. Allow yourself to spend some time here, because there can be, really great outcomes in this neutral zone. And then the third zone, which I alluded to already, is the new beginning. And I don't know that there's many of us in the new beginning yet. And that would make a lot of sense. But the new beginning is marked with, we've got this, and you have people that are believing in where you're heading, and they've bought in, and they might feel excited. And eventually, you'll want to get your folks, your educators, to that place, right? You'll want to get them on board with your new vision of how we'll approach education moving forward. But let's really take the time that we need to feel those other 2 phases, and let people experience those phases. So we don't want to rush into that. We want to give them time to adjust. But there is a third phase, and it's really hopeful at that stage. So I want to I want us actually to reflect on what stage you're in right now. So if you want to post up, you can. If not, you can say it out loud or you could write it in a journal. But what are the three stages? The ending stage, a lot of grief and loss, the neutral zone, some chaos and confusion, but some creativity, or the new beginnings. So think about where you are at right now and let us know, please, in the comments. And then I also want you to consider where you've been over the last year. So what have your transitions and changes been, what have your transitions and changes been over the last year? Again, remembering the other things that you had going on before COVID-19 will play a part in how you're transitioning. All right. So we have reflected and talked about these different stages. And now I want us to engage in a practice that we haven't done before. And this practice is a tapping practice. So if you've never tapped before, if it's your first time tapping, it is exactly what it is, what it sounds like. You'll be tapping on different meridian points on your body. And so you can't get it wrong. So don't worry about looking foolish or getting it wrong. Just like show up really being present to this technique, because it's an incredible technique. And it has the ability to boost our immune system, like immediately, positive results in our health and our well-being. So this technique helps calms our nervous system, and it does that by a combination of acupressure and psychology. So at the same time that we'll be tapping, I'll be sharing some statements with you, and you'll just keep tapping as you follow me. And you can say them to yourself as I say them, or you can just listen to me say the statements. But what happens is when we press on these meridian points, we send messages to our amygdala, which we talked about last week, which is that fight, flight, or freeze part of our brain, and we send messages to relax, and that's actually what happens. So to begin, just get comfortable in your seat. Again, ground down where you are, but then rise up, lift up through your chest. And for a part of this, we'll give voice to the fear, we'll give voice to the uncertainty, and then we'll follow up with some affirmations and positive cognitive thoughts and phrases that will help shift our mindset. So before we begin, I want you just to take notice of where you're at right now, and give yourself a score of 1 to 10 in how you're feeling. 10 being you feel on top of the world. It's a beautiful day, so I hope some of you are feeling better than you have on our rainy days. So just give yourself a score of where you're at, and begin to engage your breath. Take a nice deep breath in. And I have to remove my glasses for this. If you have glasses, you would want to remove them. And then my only other thing is, if you have some hand sanitizer around, give yourself a pump, because you are going to be touching your face. And I don't want you to touch your face without clean hands. All right. So we are going to begin. The first tapping point is going to be a karate chop. You can either tap right on the outside of your palm, or you can karate chop with your opposite hand. So just start tapping. You can't get it wrong. Start tapping here. And I'm going to just start talking to you. Again, you can repeat them or in your head or out loud, or you can just listen. So even though there's so many changes, I can still take time to regulate and relax. Even though I'm feeling anxiety in my body, I have tools to help me move through this. Even though I'm feeling stress, I can acknowledge those feelings and know that they won't last. All right, so we're going to begin tapping at the points right at the ends of your eyebrows. So I'm going to tap with one hand just so that you can hear me. All this stress, all of this anxiety, tap to the outside of your eye. All of this uncertainty, tap under your eye. All of this fear, tap under your nose. And then under your chin. It can feel overwhelming at times. You're going to tap right here under your clavicle, the two bones here. It can be scary not knowing what the future holds. Now tapping about 3 inches under your arm, you're going to tap your side. Now you're going to tap the top of your head. What do I do with all of these feelings? And now we'll just repeat, going back to the spot between your eyebrows. All of this fear, all of this uncertainty, all of this change, all of this anxiety. It can feel really overwhelming. It may seem like there's no end in sight. But I have gained tools to cope. And I am supported. We're going to do one more round, starting with your eyebrow. I can listen to my body outside of your eye. I can know when to take a break. I can be supported by others under your eye. I can let go of what was. I can be hopeful for a future. I know this won't last forever. I know that something new is possible and I can handle that when I need it. I know that I can be creative and be a contribution to what's next. All right. So if you've never done that before, it might have felt a little strange or awkward. I'm happy to see we still have the same number of people in the room when we started the activity. But I want you to check in and just think about, give yourself another rating of where you're at right now. Maybe you felt changes in your sense of calm. Maybe you felt changes in your body temperature. Maybe you felt changes in your heartbeat or even your breath as you were doing that. So whatever those feelings were, again, just acknowledge them and notice if maybe that felt good and it felt relaxing to do it. There's no right or wrong script either. So if you do this on your own, what you're doing is just giving voice to whatever it is that is fearful or causing anxiety or causing angst, and then reaffirming that on the other side of that, there are other new experiences, there are other things, that you have tools. And so the combination of the tapping and the positive language changes and creates new pathways in our brain. Incredible, right? Put that tool in your wellness toolkit. Take it out whenever you need it because now you have it. You could find tons of videos on tapping online. So I want us to move and shift the conversation before we leave here about those that we are serving. Right? Thank you, Carol. I see that you are feeling relaxed. I'm so glad to see that. I saw a couple people were saying that they were in the neutral zone or the creativity zone. So thinking about the people that you are serving, whether you are serving students, whether you're serving your own children, or you are serving educators as a school leader. I want you to think about as we are going through these transitions, all of the people that you serve are really going to have a unique and individual response to this transition. Your hope is that you'll get people on board with the vision of what's to come, but in some way honoring the past and honoring what once was. Grieving, allowing people to grieve. So allow kids to grieve that they didn't have that dance recital, or they didn't have a soccer season, or a baseball season, or they didn't get to celebrate their hard work and their graduation the way they thought they were going to. Allow kids and adults the space to feel all of those things. The other thing is, how can we start to help people feel that they are supported and that there's things to let go of, but there's also things as we move into a new school year that will be benefits, right? How can we get people to see the benefit and the benefit of letting go and moving into something new? So consider your language around that. I'm thinking about the teachers and the educators that are going back and closing down their classrooms, as I mentioned before, and all of the feelings that they're having around that. For some people, this is really um, sorrowing. They're deeply impacted by not seeing their students. As you bring folks back into your schools to close out their classrooms, can you consider not only the procedures of this process, but also the humanistic part of it? Is there something nice you can do? Is there a note you can leave on their chalkboard, a handwritten note, a piece of chocolate, maybe a picture? I don't know, something that symbolizes your gratitude to them and recognizing how hard this is. So I know that many school leaders are thinking about the procedures of getting people in, and you may have a certain amount of time and managing how many folks are in the building. If you could take one slice of that process and implement something that honors folks and where they are in the transitions, it'll go a long, long way. It'll go a long way in people feeling hopeful in the new beginnings phase. So start to consider the phases that people are in and how you want to acknowledge those. And like I said, acknowledging the differences and transitions, maybe having a conversation like, could you consider this conversation about transitions, looking at William Bridges' model and putting that into one of your live events with your staff about where people are at and just giving name to it, and then talking about where we're going together, giving them some information if you have it or when you do. Right, these are really powerful ways to get people through, manage them through as a leader, manage them through these stages and move them into the next stage in a timely way. So there are lots of changes going on, and we can't control those, but our transitions are within our control. And I hope that you're able to use these tools and they are helping you manage the transition, because you're not only managing it for yourself at times, you're oftentimes managing these transitions for others. So, with that being said, we have gotten to the end of another episode, and I look forward to our time together next week, same time, 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Michael, I'm sending it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alicia. Another great presentation. Another, like you said, another tool to put in your toolkit. And I know during these uncertain times, it's definitely important to kind of step back and take pause and maybe understand what you're feeling and kind of address those. I know that these Friday sessions have helped me so much. Um, I know it's helped a lot of people watching too. So definitely, if you like what you see here today and um, you like what you hear and it's helped you, definitely drop a comment for Alicia. Definitely drop us a like, drop the video a like, give us a share. It really does help our page and this type of content grow. So again, Alicia, thank you so much for a great presentation. Thank you so much for everyone listening live and recording. Like Alicia said, she will be back joining us again in her Friday 1 p.m. Spot. So, like I said, we're really proud of the community we're growing here. So, like I said before, if you like what you see, just drop us a like and share this video and leave us a comment. It really does help our broadcast grow. I want to let everyone know that future Facebook Live events will be announced on njsba.org through School Board Notes and through our Facebook page and Twitter page at NJSBA. So if you haven't already, click that like button. You're already here. It really does help us. For the latest information, bookmark www.njsba.org/COVID-19. And I'll drop that in the comments section below as well. That landing page is our resource page and is updated daily. So finally, thank you again, Alicia. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope everyone stays safe and has a great Friday afternoon. It's beautiful out, so that will definitely help some wellness, getting outside a bit, enjoying some sunshine, and staying socially distant. So have a great Friday.
Bye, everyone.